Hello and welcome back to New Forest Morphs. This is part 2 of our feeding troubleshooting video that we're putting together with Adam's help. And in part 1 we covered some of the underlying issues why snakes go off food, and we talked about the ones that are really nothing to worry about because it's either due to breeding, either due to transportation issues that can be amended. If you've got a snake moving from one facility to the other, they can go off food. So we've covered some of the less worrying feeding issues. I think there's some other feeding issues that could be more worrying and concerning, which affect the health of an animal and also its conditioning. So we're going to cover a few of those today, but before we do that, I just wanted to show you our desert ghost female that's just shed out today. She's looking absolutely gorgeous, so I think this is a good chance to show you how beautiful she is. And we'll put her under the spotlight. She shed out today, so she went off food for a week, Adam. And she struck, even in sheds, she struck the food but left it because she was in the middle of a shed process. So her instincts were saying, feed me, but her body was saying, no, it's not good to put that in my body. See, there's a little bit of shed left there, but she's completely shed out. And look how beautiful she looks, Adam. Isn't she lovely? Mm. And so we'll put her under the spotlight and see whether we can come round behind her. There we go, my darling. There she is, and she's looking absolutely superb, Adam. But come and join me in the spotlight and see if we can get some lovely photography. Right, here we go, my darling. Well, if you pass me the camera, Adam, I'll just zoom in on her. There she is. Isn't she just lovely? So she's an Enchi desert ghost, and she weighs, we'll weigh her in a minute. I reckon she must be about over 1,000 now, building nicely and hoping to put her husband, who's also a visual desert ghost, Enchi, to her, Rambo, and produce some visual Enchi desert ghosts. They're both 100% het for caramel as well, so they could also produce an extra recessive gene in there as well. But there she is, absolutely stunning. Beautiful patterns on her body. I just love her head stamp as well. Absolutely gorgeous animal. And she's got a nice temperament, and she's just shed out, so you can see how clean she is. So the desert ghost is an enhancing gene that brightens up the future snakes and goes well with any combo virtually. It will brighten things up. And the Enchi is also a enhancing gene, so you've got a double enhancing gene here. So I'll pass the camera back to Adam and we'll just weigh her. We can guess the weight if you like. Right, here we go. Here you come. There we go. So let's just get the scales out. Maybe we'll use her hide to weigh her in. And we'll set the scales for 0. Just see how much she weighs. I think she's going to be about 1,200 is my guess, is what I'm going to guess, Adam. Do you want to have a guess?
I've said the same.
Okay. 1,377. That is more than I expected, which is fantastic news. So she's only a couple of hundred away from that minimum 1,500 grams of breedability, and again she's only 18 months old, so you can see that she's been feeding really well. And I might take her up to a couple of thousand before I put a male to her, because she's still got another 6 months before we get into major breeding with her. So that gives her, say, 100 grams. So she could put up another 600 grams in 6 months, and then we can breed with her. I like the girls to be between 1,500 and 2,000, but she's in great condition and she's going to be a really key part of our breeding plans. So we've got choices. We could put a visual desert ghost to her to get some visual babies, which will build up our visual desert ghost collection, or we could put the dreamsicle to her and actually produce some triple hets, because then end up with a animal that will have het desert, 100% desert ghost, 100% dreamsicle, 100% pied. So that could be an interesting one. Or we could put a clown boy to her, which we've got Hercules. So we could end up with a desert ghost, 100% desert ghost, 100% clown, with all the codoms that Hercules has got. Let's have a quick look at Hercules because he shed out today as well. So we're going to give you a bit of snake candy before we get back onto the feeding issues. So here's Hercules, and there he is, and we'll weigh him as well, Adam, and we'll put him under the spotlight, shall we, just to show you how he's looking. Again, I reckon he's getting close to 700 grams, this fella. Let's have a quick look at him under the spotlight. Thank you, Adam. So again, we could put Hercules to the Desert Ghost Girl. We don't have to go for visuals. We could go for the triple hets, which is a longer term project, and it will allow us to be able to put 3 recessive visuals together. It will take probably 3 to 6 years to achieve that. So he's carrying Leopard, Lesser, Pastel, Enchi, Clown. So even though if we put him to Desert Ghost Girl, she's got Enchi, we can end up with super Enchis and loads of codoms in our triple hets, which will give us fantastic opportunities to breed some amazing snakes going forward. So sometimes it's worth taking that step before you make the visuals, but we'll look at it again and see how Hercules is doing. Let's weigh him up and see whether he's up for the job. And there you go, Adam, if you'd like to take that. We'll guess his weight. I'm going to say about 700 is what I'm guessing. Have to zero him out a little bit, so let's just zero that, and then we'll switch that on. But Hercules wants to play, so I'll zero that now, and then we'll set the scales. So there he is, our beautiful male. So he's been eating, he actually ate he eats in shed, so he is 763, which is more than big enough to breed with, but we'd like him to get up to sexual maturity as well. So, but he'll need to be moving up soon. But a beautiful animal, 763 grams, and again, he just loves to come out and play. Beautiful temperament, beautiful animal. Right, let's slip him back and let's get back to some troubleshooting on the feeding issues. There we go, Hercules. Thank you for starring in our video, and we're looking forward to getting his genes into some of our clowns. Actually, I'll show you one more male that is building nasty, which is Yazoo. Now this is the husband for Xena, and you'll see we won't touch him because he's got a big prey item and he took us a rat wiener. But he's getting up to about 400 grams, and he needs to be at least, well, I'd like him to be 700-800, but if we can get him up to size by say October, November later this year, we can put this male to Xena to produce some albino clowns. But we found with him that he has been eating every week, but occasionally he drops the food and leaves the food behind. So I was delighted to see that when I woke up the next day that he hadn't dropped his food or regurgitated his food, and it meant that I gave him a multi, which is a high quality, high protein diet. It's a smaller animal but it has more protein. So if you want to bring your snakes on without putting their body under too much pressure, give them things like multis, which are high in protein, and they are like, I find they're good at solving feeding issues. So any snakes that have feeding issues, if I give them a small multi, they tend to eat and it gets them back on the feeding. So for example, I'll give you another example. We've got Amber, who has been a really picky eater, and for the first year she didn't go for us, and the second year she looks as though she's building. But if you look at her body size and condition, she's about 2,500 kilograms at the moment, but I got her at 1,500. And the reason why she was so slow to build in the first year was because she kept on refusing food, and that was doing my head in. I was thinking, clown's one of my favourite projects. How can I get her on food? So I put her onto small multis and she began to feed. And the technique for yesterday when I fed her was I gave her a small multi to start with, so she satisfies her need for multis. That gets her taste buds going. And then if I have any leftover rats at the end of the session, I often go to Amber and see what her behaviour is, and she was gagging for another rat because I only gave her a very small multi. She's quite capable of taking a small rat. So I stimulated her by giving her a small multi to get the taste buds. It's almost like an appetizer, if you like. Just like when we sit down and have a meal, if you have a nice prawn cocktail appetizer, it gets you in the mood for your main meal. Talking of which, I think Mum's going to be calling us for lunch soon, and Adam's thinking, yeah, can't wait. But with that amber, so the technique here is to give a small multi, and we did the same thing with another problem feeder, and I'll show you the other problem feeder, because we've got a lightning pied here that we bought from Europe. It turns out she was raised on live mice, and we don't feed any of our snakes live food. So it took a while for her to get going, and she wasn't eating for quite a while. Her husband, who was also a lightning pied, did eat, and I'll just contrast these two, and you'll see, because she didn't eat, you'll see here, let me just show you this lovely little girl. She's about 250 to 300. We'll put her in the light box, Adam, and then we can see. So there she is, and it looks like she's going into shed actually, so that might be the reason why she didn't eat yesterday. But the week before, she took a really small multi. We scaled down the size of the multis because she hadn't eaten for about 8 weeks, and I was getting really worried. And she was weighing in at 250, where her husband's weighing in at nearly 1,000, and they were both the same size when we got them a year ago. And so my concern was, why was one feeding and the other wasn't? And we had to change things about for her. But there she is. We will weigh her, and I'll contrast her with her husband. Actually, I'll get her husband and put her alongside. You'll see the difference between two animals. So if I get Thor out now. Okay, there's Thor. Now, they were both the same size when we got them. Just have a look at the contrast. Adam, if I could borrow the camera. Now, he's behind us, so you won't see the difference in sizes as much, but you can see, we can weigh them and show you. I put them side by side. Just look at the difference in size of animals. Both lightning pieds. One fed every week, and the other one went for quite a long time without feeding. Intermittent feeding, eating smaller prey items. And I think it was because she didn't migrate from live mice to frozen. So always speak to the previous owner, find out what they're feeding. I have a breeder who was so kind on another supply of snakes that he actually got them on frozen thawed for me before he shipped them out. And I'd ask any future breeder to do the same, because it's so much easier to feed the animals. And the desert ghosts were transferred across from live to frozen, and you can see how big they are. It makes our life a lot easier when we buy snakes. So I think that's another top tip to avoid feeding issues, is to try and get the breeders who are giving live food to get them back onto frozen, or get them onto frozen before they ship them out. Otherwise we've got that job and task, and it's not easy after they've moved. So let's weigh both animals, Adam. I give you that back, and we can guess the weights. So we'll start with the baby, smaller female, which is our lightning pied Sif, her name is. Let's just see how much she's weighing in at. I'm going to guess about 250. Let's say, and then we'll compare her with her husband and see what's going on. So actually 314, which is good. She's put on 50 grams in the last week or two, which is wonderful. Now, I gave her a really small multi, and then at the end of the feeding session, because she'd eaten after about 8 weeks of not eating, Jared and I were so happy. We had a leftover multi, and I thought, I wonder if she'll take a second multi. And I gave her the second multi, and she nailed it. Her feeding instinct was so aggressive, and it's a lovely feeling when you have a snake that isn't feeding and suddenly wants to feed. But she might be living off the 2 multis from last week. She might be a feeder that has to be fed every 2 weeks. So don't worry about this idea of feeding every week. The other thing is, with baby hatchlings, some of them will feed every 5 days if you want to get them up to size, and they're completely okay doing that. The top breeders do it. And that's another clever way of getting your hatchlings up to size quicker, is giving them a multi every 5 days, a small multi or a rat fluff. We give them rat fluffs, and that's a clever way of getting your hatchlings up to size quite quickly without power feeding them. So there's another example. Look, we need to just check out this fella here. and just see how much he is weighing. So she weighed 311, Adam. Do you want to guess this guy's weight? I reckon he's about 900 to 1,000, this guy. And they both came in at the same time, the same weight. 833. He's 500 grams bigger than his wife. And they both came from the same breeder, and they both were fed live mice as babies, but he migrated across to frozen better than her. And can you see the difference in that? It's just amazing, isn't it? Right, thank you, Thor. We'll let you enjoy your home. We'll put you back with your hide. So now we're going to talk about issues with snakes that can be longer term and problematic, and often it's to do with the health of the animals. Now we have a baby from our first clutch, number 1, that has a kink, and Jared has tried to assist feed this baby, and every time it's regurgitated or thrown out the food or rejected the food. So its weight has dropped dramatically as a hatchling, and we're concerned and worried about this snake because we think it may not make it. So I'm going to show you him, and it's mainly because the kink is actually near the neck, and for the food item to pass through, it has to pass through a kink to get to its body to be able to digest the food. So some kinked animals make it, some don't. And the ones that make it are the ones with the kinks that tend to be below the throat. And this one has a kink by the throat. And I think Jared's tried so many times to assist feed it, and it's rejected it, that we don't think it's going to make it, but we are trying our hardest every week to offer it some food. And we offer it a very small item, incredibly small. I know breeders even actually break part of a small rat pup up and give a leg or give a part of an animal to a very small snake to try and get it going. I know of someone that's managed to get a snake from, say, 17 grams right up to adult. So you can, but when they've got kinks, it's extra challenging. And I'll show you the one that's got the kink. It was part of the cinnamon clutch where we had 5 babies, and I'll show you how the other babies are doing, and you can compare it with the one with the kink that we're trying to get going. So first of all, they're all het for clown. Let's take one of the cinnamons that is definitely feeding well, and if I just move that out of the way, he's a pistol. I could get tagged here, Adam. So can you see? Now, he may let me. There we go. There he is. See how beautiful he is? We'll put him under the spotlight. Now these are snakes on the same clutch. You're going home in on that one, Adam. I'll get the one with the kink, and you'll see the difference in size. Alright, I can just slip in there a little. So this is the baby with the kink. And look at the difference in size. Now I've got to be careful because this one's likely to attack me. Right, if I can borrow that now. So here's 2 animals in the clutch. One's eating very, very well, no kinks. The other one, with assist feeding, it's struggling. And you can see the difference in size as a result of a feeding issue. So Jared's going to persist with the little fellow on the left. He's 100% het for clown, and this is the cinnamon clown. Now you can see the cinnamon clown is so wanting to feed. Look, he's poised, he wants to eat again. So it's really interesting. So there are some techniques that we can adopt, assist feeding, and I think Jared has made a video on one of our previous videos of how to assist feed, and by all means have a look at that. But it's different options available. Like you say, the size of the prey is important, type of prey, and the key is not to overfeed these animals in the sense that you don't want to keep on pestering them to take food, otherwise they can switch off their feeding instincts and become a negative feeder. You want to build on their natural hunger to feed as well. So there's the difference between those two. I'll pass you back to Adam. And I'm going to get tagged here if I'm not careful. I'll use a bit of kitchen roll to, because he will, look, you can video this if you like, Adam. Just watch this, look. Watch him attack. Is he going to attack? No, okay, that's good. Right, hopefully I've done enough that I can go in and I can actually, there we go, here he is. There you go, fella. Now if we weigh him, let's just weigh him and see what he weighs.